trying to find a spot. You're on the East Coast. I'm here in California. You work the weirdest hours anyone's ever worked. I work the hours a normal human being works, but with the time difference and all that, we just couldn't get together until I said, hey, I have a free period on Tuesday. Let me rig it up in the classroom. So, here we go. Here we are. And we're going to learn today. We're going to learn today.
Yeah. Yes, we are. And it's perfect. And I appreciate, I work 4 a.m. to like 11 a.m. doing morning radio. And then I'm our Eagles post-game host for 97.5, the Fanatica radio station here in Philadelphia. I do a lot of stuff with the Sixers. So it's just like my hours are right outside of the normal working hours. And it's a pain in the neck to figure it out. But hey, we're all together here, and we've got some stuff to break down.
All right. Well, I want everyone to remember this will be on the final, so please pay attention. The Phillies and the Astros are – I mean, actually, you're in Philadelphia right now, right?
Yes, I am.
How's the weather out there?
Oh, it looks beautiful right now. It's going to be about 67 and sunny. There was some fog this morning that cleared up. Last night, definitely not playable conditions, though.
Okay, it's funny, it was Halloween, and my job was going to be, because we actually had the street that I live on is a cul-de-sac with a lot of little kids, so we get some trick-or-treat traffic. So my job was going to be sitting on the front porch, handing out the Almond Joys and Hershey's bars with the radio on, listening to the ball game. That my night got a lot easier when the rain out, but I was texting the whole time. I was texting my cousin Bill, who lives in Wilmington and is a diehard Phillies fan. And I was texting him, "What's it look like? What's it look like?" And he's texting me back. So he has younger kids than mine. And they still trick or treat. And he was like, "We're trick or treating in the rain. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good." By the way, we do have some people in attendance in our classroom as this is going on in the live stream. If you have any questions, be sure to throw it in the chat. We'll pick them up. As I said with Michael Ferraro in yesterday's episode, this rain out, I think, helps the Phillies. I think they were going to start Syndergaard on game 3, Suarez game 4, and then roll the dice hoping that Nola would be ready for game 5. But now they could start Suarez, who I think is a much better option than Syndergaard at this point, unless they got a time machine and got 2015 Noah Syndergaard. And being able to go Suarez, Nola, 3-4, I think gives them a great chance to, at the very least, split these couple of games.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard something from Jessica Mendoza that she did for ESPN Radio, overnight radio. And she was trying to make the argument that the Astros benefit from this because of the depth that their pitching has. I think you're right, though, Sully. I think it benefits the team with the less pitching depth, which is the Philadelphia Phillies, giving them the opportunity for the extra day of rest. Now you can throw Suarez, Nola, and potentially Wheeler in a game 5 if you need that. That's a much tougher matchup for the Astros than to the Syndergaard game if he's not 2015 Noah Syndergaard, which he hasn't been for a while now. So, yeah, the way you push it back, and the bigger thing even is the continuation of keeping that travel day. If they had cut the travel day, the Phillies with much less depth in the bullpen and in the starting rotation would have been in trouble. But the fact that Major League Baseball kept that together very much leads the Phillies' way, in my opinion, as well.
We have, by the way, speaking of Noah Syndergaard in the past, first comment in the chat room is from friend of the podcast, Jeff Cohen, rabid Mets fan, says, "Nice weather for baseball. How lucky did baseball get for November weather, November World Series game?" That's right. I mean, this could very easily have been a disaster. I think this is one of the problems. Look, I've been saying for a couple of years, and Connor, you're not going to find a bigger baseball fan than me of just the whole game, not just my team. I've been saying for over a decade, before I started podcasting, when I was just making the baseball videos, I was calling for the season to end on Labor Day, even if it means shortening the season, because, first of all, casual baseball fans don't follow their team unless they're don't follow the playoffs unless their team's in it. Right. And so they're going to be going up against football anyway. But you want to have it so the weather at least replicates a summer baseball game, at least in some way, shape, or form. And also because they've expanded the playoffs, that sort of it being 162 games and the playoffs being a crapshoot made more sense when there were fewer teams in the playoffs as opposed to now. I would love to have September be the month of this playoff tournament and essentially have the first week of October be the World Series. That to me would be perfect.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. If it was 2010, 2011, I'd say let it get cold because you have the Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels, Phillies that are going to be really good pitching wise and make it tougher for offense. But especially with a Phillies team that's built for offense and the game being built around the long ball so much now, it helps to keep that warmer weather. It's more exciting. It plays more true to the regular season games. And frankly, 162 games is more than enough. If they were to cut that down a little bit, I wouldn't hate it. So
even 140, even if it's 140,
right.
you still got a really good sample size of what a team is. I'm not talking about going back to what it was in the COVID season, where you don't really learn much over 60 games. You can learn a hell of a lot in 140 games, especially if we're inviting 6 teams in each league to participate, as opposed to just the division winners. But also remember, as recently, I always think back to this in 2017. The Rockies were a wild card team and Minnesota was a wild card team in 2017. Mm-hmm. It was unlikely, but a scenario existed that you would have had an outdoor World Series in Minneapolis and Denver in late October and early November. Yeah. You might as and that would be in a monsoon. Cheryl Cosmo, devoted fan and listener, writes, go back to 154 if you keep this playoff format. I'm for that. Go back to the old. I mean, to me, that would be a great compromise. And by the way, if you want to keep some of these home run records from getting out of control, you don't have as many games going on there.
That all makes sense. And listen, the Phillies, one of their most notable series, they make that huge comeback against the Mets in 2007, and then they go to Colorado and just get absolutely smoked in a series where the temperature was like 30 degrees the whole time. It's crazy to have teams like that play late into October and early November. So I'm totally with you.
And look, you talk about potential weather situations now. I mean, if the World Series was being played now, open weather in Denver and Minneapolis, it is an absolute surefire bet that you are going to have a game snowed out or something crazy. And Connor, let me ask you a question. If you need to make a bet, where are you going to go?
Well, of course, I'm going to go to our friends over at BetOnline because BetOnline.net, they're your number one source for betting football and the start of new basketball season. NBA's rocking right now. Go ahead and check everything out. The Sixers off to a slow start, but some fun stuff going on there. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth analysis, all that good stuff. And always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information. You got live betting, you got up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events. They've even got, well, of course, baseball. We got the World Series going on right now. MMA, boxing, golf, anything you want. I'm sure you can bet on how long the lights are going to stay on in Sully's classroom out there in Pasadena High School. Whatever you need, BetOnline's got it. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts.
By the way, I'm here in the classroom. I'm here with my star student, Connor Thomas of Locked On Phillies. You can tell how much movement I do when I teach because these lights are motion censored, and I'm walking around constantly. If I counted my steps when I taught, I'm probably doing 20,000 steps just making orbits around the classroom. And the lights are, Sully must be gone. Better shut off the lights. It's okay. We're here doing a Locked On crossover in the classroom with Connor Thomas of Locked On Phillies. Now, I'm not going to get into a debate with Jessica Mendoza. My main problem with what she said in terms of this delay helping the Astros is they have the pitching depth, whether there was a rain delay or not. They haven't used Jose Urquidy yet. I mean, he would be a number 2 pitcher for a lot of the playoff teams that are in here, and he's been the Maytag repairman. How about that for a dated reference? But you have the Christian Javier's, the Lance McCullers Juniors, and all these people who haven't even appeared in the playoffs yet. Their bullpen is ridiculously deep, and they had a travel day, and a lot of those pitchers weren't even used in the Game 2 victory over Philadelphia. They had the pitching depth. The main thing that I initially picked Houston in 5. That was my pick. And the reason I picked him in 5 is I thought Houston was going to lose one of the 2 games that was going to be started by either Nola or Wheeler, because I thought those were the 2 best pitchers they had. And as I said to Michael Ferraro, I was right in one way that Nola matched Verlander. He just matched him at being bad.
Yes.
And the very unlikely scenario of the Phillies bullpen outdueling the Astros bullpen and Nick Castellanos being a defensive star, go to BetOnline and make your bet to see what the odds of that would have been. But now that they've been able to move Nola and possibly Wheeler up a game, I think the chances of them winning an additional game in Philadelphia, I just think went up exponentially. Because I thought the matchups with Syndergaard and Suarez were so insanely in the favor of Houston that I thought they were going to be down 3-1 and then just be in, go for the throat mode. But now I think if they split the next 2 games, I still think that we're going to go to game 6 with Houston up 3-2. Nothing against the Phillies. I've been surprised this all year. I just think Houston is a very deep team right now. And they were one Nick Castellanos slide away from being up 2-0 in this series. But still, I think having Nola starting 4 as opposed to trying to save the season in 5 is a huge difference. And there's no similar movement with the Houston staff.
No, because there's really 2 guys for this Phillies team that match up even remotely well with Houston. You've already told them it's Aaron Nola, it's Zach Wheeler. And to knock this Phillies team out of the playoffs, I've said it since the wild card series with the Cardinals, someone's going to have to beat both of them. That's the only way to get this team out because they're just too good in tandem. And now, not only do you have them throwing 4 and 5, Wheeler supposedly Rob Thompson said he's not going to throw 5. If you're in either an elimination game or a chance to clinch, Zach Wheeler will get the ball to start. It's just what they have listed right now. But let's say he doesn't. Either way, you're looking at a situation where now, if it goes 7, Nola's available. Wheeler's going to be available out of the pen for maybe an inning. Like, it opens up the opportunity for longer rest for both of them. I don't see how it could possibly help the Astros to have to face Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler more than what they originally would have had to in the regular scheduled series.
Yeah, and if Philadelphia wins games 3 or 4, then I think it would be smart to start Wheeler game 6. I think it would be smart to start him on regular rest because, if they're down 3-1, obviously all bets are off. In an elimination game, I'm sorry, Buck Showalter, you have to throw your best pitchers. You can't say, well, we went down with our 6th best on the mound. If it's a 3-1 series lead, you can say, Wheeler, look, I know you would like to have that extra day. You
got to go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not throwing Kyle Gibson. Although I will say, as I said last night, the one game I went to in Philadelphia this summer was a game where Gibson took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Mm-hmm. So he looked pretty good that night.
Yeah.
But again, it was against the minor league team that wears Washington Nationals uniforms. And it was like days after they traded. It was like on the 3rd or 4th of August that I was there. So they were still reeling for the fact that Juan Soto was, playing for the big market San Diego Padres. But the key is these next 2 games. If the Phillies win tonight and have Nola pitching game 4, then they're almost in the driver. I mean, they're almost in the driver's seat at that point because that puts them in a position to try to take a 3-1 lead. But if they just split the next 2 games, you go Wheeler game 6, you take your chances with that. And if it goes game 7, by definition, that's a coin toss.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm overstating this. I know you're an impartial third party to this, but I had this conversation with the guys over on Locked On Astros. I think the Phillies are already in the driver's seat after taking home field advantage by splitting in Houston because Citizens Bank Park is such a tough place to play. Now, I know the great equalizer may be that the Astros, every ballpark is a tough place for them to play with what happened in 2016 and the reputation they now carry, but this is a different animal than they've seen, even in New York, because they went there already having the Yankees down 2-0 and that fan base eating each other alive. I think they're in for a rude awakening for how tough it is to play at Citizens Bank Park. And I think that's a huge, huge advantage with the Phillies. Now a chance to throw Nola in game 4 and Wheeler potentially in Game 5. I don't know, Sully. I think the Phillies have the upper hand right now, if only slightly. If they win tonight, they certainly do.
I don't mean to be a broken record. I would have disagreed with you yesterday,
Right.
because I think that I think winning that Game 2 was so big for Houston because Game 1 was such a punch to the gut that they had a 5-0 lead. They had the Castellanos catch. They had the runners on second and third. And it could have been a hit by pitch and all the stuff that was happening. Yep. So, I mean, there were so many things, went wrong in Game 1. And with the relatively easy Game 2 victory, I mean, the game wasn't as close as the 3-run final. I mean, they were in control early. Valdez was wonderful. And yeah, they were, they rallied a couple times. They just couldn't throw the big punch. I thought that was such a pick-me-up for the Astros to say, okay, this is who we are. This is who we are. But now, I think I thought they were going to go to Philadelphia and run the table because I don't think they've been booed everywhere. They're more prepared for that. They know who they are. They beat a good Mariners team, of which there was obviously 2 thrillers in that. They beat a good Yankee team. Let's face it, the Yankees were a good team. They're dysfunctional, but they're a 99-win team that won the damn division. So let's not act like they're this is the 1991 Yankees. This is a really good baseball team that they swept. And they shut down, basically, with the exception of a few at-bats, the MVP of the American League. Sorry, Shohei Ohtani. So I think that the Astros were going to go into Game 3 last night with a sense of, all right, boo us all you want. We've been hearing it. We've been hearing from everybody. We don't care. We're better than you, and we're going to beat you. But now there's an equalizer. And so, look, I don't think booing or home field advantage is going to mean piddly poo for this team. I don't. I really don't. I think it would for other teams. I think it may have rattled San Diego a little bit. I think it may have rattled Atlanta a little bit. I don't think it's going to mean squat to the Houston Astros, who have been booed by children, Cub Scouts, nuns, missionaries,
everybody.
War veterans. They've all been booing them.
This is why I say, because as much as we try to be impartial, the Phillies are my team, and I always will back up the home field advantage that we have in Philadelphia, and that's why I bring up the question. And the fun thing, though, Sully, the best part about all of this is we'll find out. We're going to find out tonight. We'll find out tomorrow night. And we will find out in Game 5. So someone's going to be right and someone's going to be wrong. But I wanted to bring that up because I feel that the home field advantage, I may be overstating it a little bit.
Well, I think, I think they have an advantage now because they're put themselves in position to tie the series.
Right.
We're here with Connor Thomas with Locked On Phillies. Hey, Jeff Cohen threw this out here. Just want to clarify. He wants to ask what's the pitching matchup for tonight. So, Jeff, I know you love Noah Syndergaard. I know you have posters of Noah Syndergaard. I know you have your little action figures. Like, hi, Noah. Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you. And you play with them all day. I believe Noah Syndergaard. Oh, I already played that one. Sorry. So it's going to be Suarez versus, is it McCullers?
It's McCullers. It is McCullers, yes. Yeah, so you're getting the same matchup from Houston that you had the day before. McCullers, a guy who's heavy off speed, similar to what Framber Valdez was in Game 2, but from the other side of the mound, righty. Phillies see the righties better, so that is a little bit of a benefit, and hopefully the extra day of building an approach against McCullers will help out a little bit. And then you get Ranger Suarez, who has had rough starts this postseason. The one against Atlanta in Game 1 comes to mind. And then he had a really good start against the San Diego Padres in the NLCS. So who knows what Ranger Suarez you're getting? A young pitcher who's making, I believe it's his 3rd postseason start ever, and it's in the World Series now. First time ever for him, obviously. So it's a tough matchup still for the Phillies, but a better one than what you would have had with a sure bullpen game yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be a lot of adrenaline for the Phillies, obviously. Yeah, but who are playing with house money. I mean, I thought they were going to get thumped by St. Louis. I mean, I'm a broken record. People have been listening to me say this. The entire tenor of the postseason would have been different if the Cardinals held on to their lead in Game 1 of the wild card series, which they looked like they were in total control.
Yeah,
and
that's where it shifted.
Yeah, and it was not subtle.
Yeah.
It was not subtle. They scored 6 runs, and then they shut them out the next day. And the Cardinals, who had all of they had all of the narratives in their favor. They had multiple MVPs. Last hurrah for Pujols. It was the last. You were going to have Pujols, Molina, and Wainwright, who were all 3 critical parts of the 06 championship, like the band getting back together for one last hurrah, and 2 and out.
Yep.
I mean, no one was expecting that. Phillies 1 game ahead of the Brewers. Only reason they're in the playoffs at all is because of the expansion of the playoffs for this year, as opposed to the way it was last year. And here we go. And I believe everything has worked. Everything's been house money for Philadelphia since then. So I know they're not going to be overwhelmed by the moment, because if there was a time for them to be overwhelmed by the moment, it was against Atlanta in round 2. Right. Or a division series. Calling it, let's just call it round 2.
Round 3. Yeah.
Because division series doesn't make sense, because that's based upon what it was called when they did that round in 1981 in the strike year, and it was a division series. It was the AL East division series, the AL West division series. And when they expanded the playoffs, so we'll just call it keep calling it the division series, even though that name never made sense.
Right. Totally agree with you there.
It should have been called the opening round. And now they should call the wild card round the opening round. That should be round 2. Then you have the league championship series. Then you have the World Series.
Makes perfect sense to me. I never understood why they didn't change it.
But yeah, and to me, this is I joked about this at one point, but I actually think this is probably true. That in the Baseball Encyclopedia, which was the baseballreference.com before there was baseballreference.com. That was kind of the official register of where you played, all major leaguers. For that round in 1981, when you had the split season, the stupid split season, then they said, instead of declaring the champion to be the team that had the best overall record, they had whoever was in first place at the strike and who had the best record after the strike played each other in a division series. Now, of course, the Dodgers wound up winning the World Series that year. They were in the NL West. The Cincinnati Reds had the best record in baseball overall. They didn't make the playoffs. They had the highest win total in all of baseball, but they were in second place at the time of the strike, and they had the second best record in the NL West after the strike. And the Dodgers and the Astros played each other, and the Reds were like, "What? We're the best. We're the best team in baseball. Why are we not in this expanded thing?" Well, because you were in second in both halves. But they called that the divisional series, and that's how it was written in the Baseball Encyclopedia. And when they came back from the strike in '94, and they were finally going to play this round, there was almost like, "What are we calling this?" Well, it's already listed as this in the Baseball Encyclopedia, so why change it?
Right. Just not go through the trouble of blotting it all out and making a new name and everything. I feel that. But yeah, I agree. That's a logical take for sure.
Should have been called either the first round or the American League semifinals.
Fine with either of those. They both make plenty more sense
than division series.
Exactly.
Well, someone else agrees. It's Jeff Cohen who says, another logical take from Sully. Darn right.
There you go.
Darn right.
You're full of them.
He's also loving Thor because he loves Noah Syndergaard.
Fair enough. Right. I hope Thor doesn't throw in this World Series, though. Maybe out of the pen, but I hope he doesn't make a start.
Did he appear in the San Diego series?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a thing. I want everyone on the roster to make at least one appearance in the postseason, not necessarily in the World Series. So I have to worry about Thor. Thor's appeared in the playoffs. If he doesn't appear,
he made a start. He was the starter in the clinching game against Atlanta.
That's right. Yeah. I totally forgot that. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think I made a joke about that. Saying that,
3 scoreless innings out of him. It's good work.
Yeah, throw. Is that a quality start?
Or sorry, he gave up a home run, but still 3. Not a quality start, but 3 solid innings. What you're basically looking for there.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Ranger. I'd rather have Nola. I'd rather have Wheeler. And hey, a little bit of rain set us up perfectly for that. So thank you, Mother Nature.
There you go. And by the way, Cheryl Cosmo is also tweeting stuff or posting stuff here. Division means nothing now. You don't have to have one of the two best records. Hey, Cheryl, I'll tell you something that I've been saying. I'm going with you on this, Cheryl. I say obliterate divisions altogether.
Really?
We saw that last year when the two best teams in baseball were Los Angeles and San Francisco, and one of them had to play a winner-take-all playoff game, which they almost lost. And then the two best teams in baseball had to play each other in the division series. So it was guaranteed that one of the two best teams in baseball was not going to make the league championship series. And it was even dumber in 2015, where the three best teams in baseball in terms of win-loss record were St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and the Chicago Cubs. And it was designed that one of the best teams in baseball was not going to make it out of the wild card game, and the other one wasn't going to make it out of the division series. So it was guaranteed that two out of the three best teams were guaranteed to not play in the league championship series. Now, as it turned out in both of those cases, a team made it to the LCS, and one of those, and yet another team wound up winning the pennant. The Mets in 2015, Atlanta last year, when the league championship series probably should have been San Francisco versus Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it's funny. The Mets fans would say similar thing about this year with the season they put together. They lose to the Braves by one game in the NL East, and all of a sudden they're out in the wild card round to a Padres team that won, 89 games?
88 games.
88 games.
Yeah.
So it's wild how the playoffs work out, but I'm very glad they added the expansion spot this year.
I'm talking to the wrong guy about that one.
Add as many spots as you want, as long as the Phillies keep winning, as long as they can get in the dance.
All right. Well, guess what? Well, you know what? Pencils down. It's going to be the end of the class. Hey, Connor Thomas, tell people where they can follow your podcast.
Yeah, of course. Check all of our work out at LO_Phillies on Twitter. You can see everything retweeted on my personal account at Connor Thomas 975, which you can see on YouTube there if you're watching. You can follow us wherever you get your stuff on YouTube, Odyssey app, podcasts, the same place you get Locked On MLB. And of course, as always, check out our friends over on Locked On Sports Today. They do great daily content there. You're going to see a lot of me, the folks over at Locked On Astros, because the World Series is going on. And Sully, you can find all of his stuff. Of course, we'll let you know where.
You can follow me, follow this podcast on Twitter and on Instagram at Locked.MLB Pods. And I am your pal Sully. I'm your teacher, Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter for now, and Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Bringing in my star pupil, Connor Thomas, to my free period in my luxurious high-budget classroom in Pasadena High School. This has been Locked On MLB for the first day of November 2022. Let's play ball tonight. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, please, please